of Alex Jakes and Julian Palmer, and we'll also be hearing from Sam Collins and Alex.
The Hungarian Grand Prix weekend as our journey around the world continues at one of our favourite stops on the calendar. For the 40th time in World Championship history, let's go racing at Budapest. And we begin the weekend with FP1. It is a storied racetrack. 4 decades of motor racing memories. Around the 4.3 kilometres, 2.7 miles on Sunday. We'll put 70 laps on the board. It is a traditional Grand Prix weekend with 3 hours of practice, an hour of intense qualifying, and the Grand Prix to come. Get an idea of the elevation change there as you dip down the hill into turn 2. Let's show you the tyres for this weekend. The soft, the medium and the hard. The C5, the C4 and the C3. We have no gaps between the compounds this week. That will be back for us again in Austin, that phenomenon. But now we make our way past the tractor, over the fields and to the natural valley that for 4 decades has been providing us so much Formula One racing action. They built this place in a bit of a hurry in the 1980s. They were desperate to be the first venue behind the Iron Curtain to host Formula One, and we've never left. It is a brilliant place to go motor racing, and it's got a brand new pit building, a brand new big grandstand on the main straight as well. And so there's a new look, but we're expecting the usual mix of Hungarian conditions. Glorious sunshine with a chance of rain on Sunday. One driver who's been around here plenty of times, including a very spicy battle in the second tier I remember many years ago with Felipe Nasr, is our co-commentator and man going to take you through the weekend. Julian Palmer, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Looking forward to this as always. They did a great job with it, didn't they? Building this in a hurry, and it's become a staple in Formula One. I heard you mention elevation change. We've come from Spa. Yeah. This feels very flat now, but there is a little bit there through turn 2 and dipping before finding a small crest at turn 4. But generally, so different to Spa last time around, where there was proper elevation change. It is flatter, it's much lower speed, it's very much a shorter lap. So the driving techniques are all different as well. It's chalk and cheese.
It is indeed. You're looking at the new facilities that have been built, and they've done a great job to get that done. As we look down into the pit lane, and we see Felipe Drugovich in for Fernando Alonso, one of Fernando Alonso's greatest circuits on the calendar, and the Brazilian driver Felipe Drugovich, Formula 2 champion of 2022, gets a chance on the Grand Prix weekend again. Fernando Alonso with a muscular injury, and he finds himself sitting this one out.
I tweaked his neck after the Grand Prix in Belgium, but I spoke to Charles after the race, and had a great drive, got the podium, was very happy, and he said, wow, it was physically really demanding driving around Spa. It was effectively a dry race, wasn't it, after a short run on the intermediates, but actually just pounding it around on the slicks, the tyres not really going away. The drivers' necks were really getting a workout. You've got a really long anti-clockwise corner as well, so a lot of stress on that. And then even corners like Blanchimont is flat out, but your neck does do a lot of load. And Fernando seems to have just really a minor tweak, but enough that he wants to rest it at this point. So I'm excited to see what Drugovich can do. I'm always excited to see what a Formula 2 champion can do when he gets behind the wheel. And Drugovich has had a few chances. Generally, he's always been pretty competent.
Yeah, Lance Stroll has missed 3 races in the last couple of years. Every single time that Stroll has missed a race, Drugovich, who is the reserve driver and has been for a while now, has been unable to step up. So he's looking for an opportunity to prove himself. Drugovich has turned down great opportunities in other championships for this chance. It's only FP1 at the moment, but we wish Felipe Drugovich well. worth noting, he won that title with MP Motorsport. Wasn't a traditional team that had taken a driver to the title. Brilliant engineer there in Mr. Rossi, who took Charles Leclerc to the title when he was with Prix, but a very, very good achievement to win that title with a different team to the usual pretenders that we see at the front, like a Prix, like an ART.
He won it quite comfortably as well, didn't he? It was a very good year he had in F2, and has just been waiting for a chance to step up, and he's had these sort of half chances. Did the pre-season test a couple of years ago when Stroll was out, and then, as you say, Stroll's missed a couple of races, but Drugovich has never had a chance to jump in. So here we go, start of a weekend, and I'm interested to see actually the comparison, Drugovich and Stroll, if we're going to get a fair comparison.
Sam Collins, how are you, sir?
I'm very good, Alex. I thought I'd just chip in with another little bit of Aston Martin news that's gone on in the last few days. A sale of a stake in that team has been confirmed, giving the team a valuation of over $3 billion US. That's absolutely huge, and just shows you the health of Formula One right now.
Certainly does. And you've got the old and the new there, Peter Barr, CEO, speaking to Franz Tost, who ran that junior team for Red Bull under many different guises for a number of different years, and stepped back in recent times. They have that team principal swap, haven't they, in recent moments as well. Lauren Mecky's only second Grand Prix weekend in charge of Red Bull, and therefore only a second Grand Prix weekend for Alan Permain at the head of the race running departments for the Racing Bulls. And everywhere that Franco Colapinto goes racing, he brings fans with him. That continues here, and he is confirmed for this weekend.
Which you have to confirm that every FP1.
I honestly, it seems ridiculous, but he isn't on a race-by-race deal at the moment.
It is ridiculous.
As we look at another Alpine junior loaned to Sauber. If you're wondering what he's doing in their vibrant green colours, there you go. He is test and reserve driver for Alpine. Last year, third place. Very, very strong performer, very consistent throughout the campaign. And third place in F3 the year before. Here's Hadja.
I think the track is hot enough, it's okay.
Just make sure you show them who is the strongest driver.
That's exclusive team radio for you as he goes through the systems checks and gets his morning up and running. A reminder for you that Paul Aaron is in for Nico Hulkenberg for this session. The teams have to run 4 rookies, 2 for each car as mandated. That's a rule change for this year. Alex Brundle joining us on the broadcast for the first time.
Hello, gentlemen. It's great to be back at Hungaroring, isn't it? I just thought I would flag the wind here, which we saw a little bit earlier on in free practice for Formula 2, making an impact as well. Wind today going what I would consider to be the fast way at Hungaroring. And what I mean by that is you get a tailwind down the front straight, does make braking a little bit trickier into turn 1, and we saw a lot of that in Formula 2 practice as well. Then you get a lovely wind over the nose as you make your way through from sort of turn 5 through to turn 11, which helps, of course, having airflow over the aerodynamic surfaces and generate a little bit more downforce. In general, that leads to faster lap times around the Hungaroring. Benefit of the tailwind, of course, down the front straight, and then all of that lovely downforce through the middle sector.
56 minutes, 30 seconds to go. This relentless run, we're coming to the brink of the summer break, the mandated summer break, where every single Formula One factory must, according to the rulebook, completely shut down and then prove that they've shut down. Yes, you can't stop the brains of Formula One thinking about how to improve the cars, but this is done due to the relentless pace around the world, and we're about to close out round 14 in a championship that is going to belong to McLaren in the drivers and the constructors, but has been ultra competitive. And I sometimes think we take for granted the logistics of moving so many personnel all around the world so many times, and they've got a brand new facility which is great for this weekend. Slightly more room down there for the team personnel to operate on these Formula One cars, and the mandated summer break, a very, very good thing. 2 weeks where everyone has to go on holiday, having shown great commitment. Great stat to show you that is that you're looking at the 10th place team with the highest points total for a 10th place team in Formula One history at this stage of the championship. Everyone raising the stakes, raising the performance across this campaign. Here's George Russell.
Brake feels a bit long and spunky.
Understood.
Jolyon Palmer, how does that feel for a driver translate George Russell's team radio message for us mere mortals?
I don't know if there's maybe a slight glaze on the brakes there as they're bedding in at the start of a new weekend. And so what it means is when you have two pedals in a Formula One car, the throttle on the right, the brake on the left, and you want to attack with a load of brake pressure. But to do that, you want to have quite a short travel firm pedal. The throttle, you want to have a long travel soft pedal so you can modulate it really nicely, especially for corners like this. You can see Lando just tickling the throttle, tickle, 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 go. Whereas the brake, you want to be able to just bam it on and stop at the next corner here down towards turn one. And if they're feeling spongy, you're not getting deceleration quickly and the travel goes a little bit longer. There we go, brake, whams on, then he'll release it. And George just saying it feels spongy, so he's having to go further into the brake travel, so he's pressing it down further and not getting the peak of deceleration.
Great explanation. As we join George, it's a sentence I'm attempting at the start of this session. Very similar corners that get faster and faster. Turn 11. There's a great clip doing the rounds of the old Mercedes back in the previous regulation set, taking that corner flat. They're not able to do that. But Russell, former pole sitter around here, against expectations back in 2022. That was making use of cold conditions for the Mercedes.
Well, speaking of the old Mercedes, George Russell is running the old Mercedes rear suspension on that car after I've just had some information through from the team actually via Lawrence Barretto that the rear of the car was just bouncing too much at Spa, and that was really interfering with the aerodynamic performance of the car, and they just weren't confident in the new specification of the rear suspension they introduced a few races ago. So after a lot of discussion, they've gone back to the original version.
Let's take a long view of that across the season. So that was introduced to Imola, and then they weren't confident in the upgrade. They removed it for a couple of races. They reintroduced it, and now it's gone again for George Russell.
That's right, yeah. So they're really not happy with that rear end. It might reappear later in the year, but they were just finding that they just weren't confident in its performance. They did say it was quite good in low-speed corners, but which you'd think put it on the car here. But still, the lack of confidence meant they just went back to the old specification. So it'd be really interesting to see how they perform throughout the rest of the weekend. It's going well to start with, though.
They're lost, aren't they? They're just lost again. Mercedes put it on for Imola. Russell qualified third. He had a really good qualifying pace at Imola, and then the race pace fell away. It was a hotter day, and the tyre jag wasn't good for them. But they then put it back on, and he took pole and won in Canada. There's only been 3 races since Canada. Mercedes are not categorically lost, but of course everyone else is adding a little bit of performance. Mercedes, I think they've taken a small misstep along the way, adding small parts as well as trying to get the most out of this rear suspension. But it's not been that long since they were the class of the field. That's the strange thing. We're back to a low cornering speed circuit. But the last 3 have been generally high cornering speeds. Austria's a blend. Silverstone is whoppingly quick. Spa, likewise, really. And guys, at Silverstone, Russell actually had a really good one-lap pace. And we don't know what he would have done in the race because he pitted on the formation lap and went into irrelevance on the different strategy. Spa was obviously tricky, but they're obviously massively scratching their heads about what's going on. So they've reverted it all the way back to Prix Imola.
I think it's worth saying that the rear suspension with this sort of era of car seems to be a really dominant element of car setup. When you look at Ferrari trying to manipulate it to make sure that they can get the ride height right without scraping the plank too hard across the floor and having issues with that. You see Mercedes playing around with it. Every single technical director you talk to, you ask them, what is the key element?
Understood. Box, please. Box, and we're going to fix this issue. Box.
Yeah, box.
Well, that doesn't sound great for Pierre Gasly, but you ask them what the key issue is with regards to getting performance out of these cars, and they're like, if you can get the rear suspension right, get the car running to close to the floor, and when you look at, for example, the car we're on board with right now, Sauber brought a new floor to the car, and it revolutionised the package. You can see just how important that engagement between the floor, the rear suspension, and everything is. So they can turn it around if they get that management between car management, attitude management of floor absolutely right. You just have to have it all working in the same direction.
Gabriel Bortoletto has gone into 14th position. His teammate for this session and this same session only, Aaron, is in 17th place. Lewis Hamilton, who has a sparkling record around this circuit, goes ahead of his teammate by 0.06 of a second. He's running the medium tyre. Charles Leclerc on the medium tyre as well. Hadjar is now down to 4th because Oscar Piastri, winner of the Grand Prix here last year, is fastest.
Well, I was about to say the Ferraris were on top of the table. Obviously, Oscar Piastri just changed that. Ferrari are another team that's been doing a lot of work with the rear suspension. And one of the reasons I think that rear suspensions have come up as a big talking point in F1 at the moment is that you've got this aerodynamic testing restriction that all of the teams face, and they have to trade off their CFD, that's the virtual wind tunnel or wind tunnel time, with next year's car as well as this year's car. And they have to work out which one pays off the most in terms of performance this year against performance next year. Working on the rear suspension doesn't come out of that allocation. It's not an aerodynamic part. So the teams can do lots of mechanical work, lots of mechanical testing. They've all got their own suspension test rigs back in the factory. Sometimes they put a whole car on what we call a 7-post rig, and you bounce it around, giving it real simulation of what the car does out on track. And some teams will be doing that overnight or even between sessions with the data they've sent back from the track. And that's what they're all doing. And because that doesn't come out of their aerodynamic testing allowance, they do have a bit of freedom to do more development in that area. So I think that's why it's come up quite so high.
This is on board with Gabriel Bortoletto, Formula 2 champion of last year, dipping down the hill now in Formula 1, using a bit more of the AstroTurf than he would have ideally liked. This is the trackside view.
So you want to keep that pinned at turn 3. Should be an extension of the exit of 2, but you've got a lot of lateral load on there, especially on a dirty track right now, and medium tyres for Bortoletto, but quite a few out there on the hard as well. So that's your limiting factor on how wide you can exit the second corner. And obviously Bortoletto, they're going out onto the Astro, which is not rubbered in, and is quite easy to actually light up the rear end as you find that less grippy surface and spit it off to the wall. So there we go through that corner with Lawson, and that is how to do it. But it will rubber in and get better and better, in which case you could start to open up the exit of turn 2 and lean on the car there.
Liam Lawson saying in the press conference yesterday that he's targeting an improvement in qualifying for the second half of the season. He said that was the bedrock of his best result of the campaign in Austria. He's looking to try and find a bit more consistency under the pressure of the 3-part qualifying session. It's turn 10, they don't worry about it. Turn 11's a real challenge.
I liked it a lot, turn 11. Is at the end of the sweeping section, left, right, through 8 and 9, the chicane. Then you have the flat out 10, and then it flicks you straight into 11, which is one of the 2 fast corners around this circuit, really. But it's so nice when it's hooked up. Lawson goes wide and then takes a late apex to try and come out of that final corner, which is also quite quick now as well, really a medium speed turn, and comes across the line.
Can be a track limits issue, can't it? Here, turn 11 as well. You see drivers scamper wide.
No.
That's not what I came to tell you before Palmer interjects too hard. Just a check in with Pierre Gasly. They're telling him they need to do a little bit of programming at Alpine. So it sounds like an electronic issue for Gasly, and they're hoping to get him back out on track in relatively short order. In fact, he is already back out on track. So
he's becoming a systems engineer from the cockpit.
I think they had to get him in the garage to do it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he was
doing the program, or he was maybe able to toggle some settings from the wheel.
No, I think less bam pedal, more tickle pedal for Pierre Gasly at this stage.
Chairman of Ferrari was in your picture a second ago, and after a rather public hurry-up for Fred Vasseur in the Italian media, didn't happen by accident, I'll tell you that much, when you've got the most preeminent Italian F1 journalist and both Italian sports papers reporting he's under a bit of pressure. That was not by accident, and then a couple of races later, multi-year deal for Fred Vasseur, and that is a good thing for Ferrari, bit of stability, surely.
Sorry, Norris, another second ahead again, though, 7/10.
Correct. 1 second.
Now, where is that 1 second?
Then 5, 8, and 9, main losses.
That's where he's at now, 5, and then 8 and 9 is the ones after the chicane as the big losses. So Ferrari will immediately see that Hamilton compared to Leclerc, because there's nearly 7 tenths between the 2 Ferraris. So Hamilton will look over to the data at the other side of the garage and find most of that loss. But Russell with a big snap through the low speed chicane. So that's the really pernickety, low speed, over the curbs part through 6 and 7, and then you find a sweeping left-right after that, which is 8 and 9 where Hamilton's losing. And that was almost a full loss of the car for George Russell.
Yeah, far from glued to the racetrack for the man who started at the front here in 2022. Reflections, Jolyon, on Fred Vasseur getting that multiple-year deal at Ferrari.
Good move. The correct decision. I couldn't understand why he was coming under pressure. I thought it was nonsense when we heard that in Canada. I think he's done a great job with the team. And the performance of the car is not where it wants to be, where he wants it, all the drivers want it. It's the last year of the regulations. Remember, he nearly won the Constructors' title with them last year, which was a great effort. Obviously, a big thing is that Lewis hasn't found his feet, and he was a big money signing for the team, and so there's got to be question marks on what is going on that side of the garage. But we're still in the first half of his first year of being a Ferrari driver, and there's loads of teething issues that he's resolving. But I look at Ferrari and I think actually the team are doing a really good job. The issues that they had in the past are resolved in terms of team management. You're looking at pit stop. They actually have the best pit stops in the business right now.
Fastest of the season so far, 2 seconds dead.
And they're really consistent. They do a great job in the garage. Strategy. I know sometimes we hear, have a cup of tea whilst you're deciding on the strategy, must be the water, funny Ferrari radio on strategy. But when push comes to shove, they actually do a great job. As proven by Lewis Hamilton last time out, as proven by Lewis Hamilton in the Miami Sprint to get third. That's twice in the 4 wet races we've had that they've absolutely nailed the strategy better than anyone. And that was in part due to Lewis in Belgium, but it was certainly in part down to Ricky on the pit wall saying, think about the slicks. And they actually preempted it before Lewis was thinking about it, and then Lewis decided, yeah, it's worth the punt. But I think Ferrari are generally doing a great job. They don't have the car. They're not miles away. I still think they'll win a race this year. And Fred is a great racer. He understands what's going on. You can't just sack him like a football manager.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of turnover in the last couple of years, hasn't there? We've found plenty. In fact, all but one team have changed their team principal in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, it's going more and more that way, isn't it? Short-term gains. But these teams are huge. It takes a lot of time to turn around performance.
And we've got Alex Albon out there on the hard tyres. Okay, Alex Albon making his way down to turn 2. And it's Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen, Behrman, Hadjar, Russell. And then this man, who was completely different in the pen compared to 1 week ago. Now they've diagnosed what the power unit problem was. He knows that he's not going to be beset with that reliability problem, and consistently challenging for the points. That's the good bit. The bad bit, he thinks it's going to be their second weakest circuit of the season. Only Barcelona providing a challenge more steep than the Hungaroring for Williams.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real downforce circuit. There's not a street track like Barcelona is. Not a lot of long straights in Barcelona, not a lot in Budapest. One whopper on the main straight, which is the same as Barcelona. So the cornering speeds are quite a lot lower here than they are in Spain. And Albon started the weekend quite promisingly here on a hard tyre. Let's see what he can do coming through the final corner.
Well, I think the Williams team and the Ferrari team are going to be dreaming not just of the summer holiday, but also what comes next. Monza, the fastest track in Formula One. And this Williams looks like it should be pretty strong once again at that circuit. But the Ferrari also looks like it could be quite strong at high speeds as well. So I think an awful lot of hope is going in for a number of teams into Monza, particularly as that's a track where McLaren isn't expected to be particularly strong. So, Jolyon, I think you're right. I think we will see Ferrari win a race, but will it be their home circuit?
Are you pinning your hopes on Monza for a Ferrari win?
I think if they're going to do it, it's going to be Monza or Vegas.
Wow. Singapore?
Too swiftly, that's McLaren territory, isn't it?
Hey, the thing with Ferrari is Leclerc very nearly won in Monaco this year. Very nearly won. He had as much pace, I would say, as the McLarens. Was just pipped by Lando in qualifying, but McLaren did 2 laps, which seemed to be a bit of an advantage at the death. He was also very quick in Canada, but made the mistake on the final lap or caught a bit of traffic, made the mistake in Friday practice, and I think he could have had pole there. I think either Ferrari driver could have had pole at Silverstone, which is a completely different circuit to those two. But both made mistakes on their final laps and left not even in the top 3, but certainly should have been on the front row there. And between that, you've got a nice range of circuits to pick and choose. I like your Monza shout. I like it. But I don't think
they bring a lot to Monza, don't they? Every single year. If you go back in the history books, even when Ferrari have been miles off the pace, Monza, they come prepared.
Well, why do you think they bolted in a new power unit last week into one of their cars? They knew Spa wasn't going to be great. They didn't qualify well. Right, put in a new power unit, go into Hungaroring, where you're not going to do particularly well. Even if you do well, it's fine, because then it's Monza and you've got a shiny, fresh V6 in the back of your car.
After Zandvoort.
Well, yeah, same argument.
Charles Leclerc's fastest, and he's ahead of Lando Norris, and then Alex Albon, who set that time on the hard tyre. Oscar Piastri getting his first win here in Formula 1 last year. Strange circumstances, we might revisit that. Let's go downstairs to Ruth Buscombe, who's in the pit lane for us at Ferrari.
Thank you very much, Alex Chase. Yes, I am down back at my first home in Formula 1 at Scuderia Ferrari, as we're about to have them boxes. We've got my old boss, we've got Fred Vasseur with a new contract, but there's something not a lot of people know about Formula 1, which is above the garage of the team that's done the fastest pit stop, which these boys are just about to demonstrate for you, is a sign. It's a very special sign, and it says 2.00 seconds, and that sits above the team that has the fastest pit stop of that season, and they are very, very competitive about it. And I'm going to tell you guys a way that you know when a pit stop is good without even having to turn around. It should sound like 2 clean sounds, exactly like that pit stop practice that Charles Leclerc did round here. It was not above Ferrari's garage last year, it was above Red Bull's garage, 1.90. The world record is 1.82. Will it change this season? We'll have to find out, but for now, grande lavoro ragazzi, well done Ferrari. It sits above their garage. It's all about marginal gains in Formula 1, and just as you say, they've done a really good job getting that above their garage.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Yeah, there you go. That's how I knew they had the fastest pit stop. I saw that yesterday on the output. So 2 seconds, fastest so far this year in Formula 1. And Yuki Tsunoda comes over the line, and he goes into 11th position off the back of his strongest qualifying performance with Red Bull last time out, having been given that crucial component that we've mentioned earlier in the season, unlocked the performance in the Sauber. He was given the latest specification floor on the Red Bull, and as a result posted it back into the top 10. That was task number 1. Very competitive. Unfortunately, strategic call, got it wrong. They called him in way too late. He was on the grid hatchings by the time they called him in Spa on the team radio, and too late to get the benefit of switching to the slicks at the right time. That blew his chance of returning to the points for the first time since Imola.
Yeah, the same way as you get the winners, the Hamiltons, Hulkenberg momentarily jumping up the order in Spa. You had Gasly making the most of it. You've got to have the people losing out.
That doesn't feel good.
There's now a second down on Leclerc. So Hamilton's back in the garage and not happy. On the other side of the garage, Leclerc's going really, really nicely. So they seem to have been on the same run plan, medium tyres, same amount of laps. So they'll have to uncover what's going on. Lewis has got such a great record around this circuit. He certainly knows his way around it, but obviously not feeling the love straight away.
He has the record around here for the most wins with 8, the most poles with 9, the most front row starts with 11, and his most recent Formula 1 pole position coming here in 2023. He beat Max Verstappen, and then Verstappen got him at the start and disappeared into the distance, which was the story of a lot of 2023 in Formula 1. There is Lando Norris being pushed back to the garage. We've said it a couple of times, worth repeating. This has always been a good Lando Norris track. He's always had good feel around here in the junior championships, and also competing when McLaren perhaps weren't at the strength that they are at the moment, which is dominant. They're just rattling off the 1-2s for fun. 3 in a row so far in Formula 1 as Liam Lawson goes over the line on that hard tyre, and he goes into 6th position. Driver who was in the points last time out, very solid run. Know that basically the positions were locked in after he'd secured them in the dry, but a good return to form for Lawson, who since Monaco has got 3-point scoring finishes, having started the season with 7 non-scores.
I like that Alan Permain said it was nearly a perfect drive from Lawson, and then Liam said, no, No, it wasn't really. But if you're winning over your new team principal straight away and you think you've got more to come, then that's a good sign. I think around the pit stop phase there was a little bit more to come from Liam. Qualifying as well, it was very, very tight. With Alex Albon was 5th, and 1/10 would have put him 9th, and all of these guys, Hadjar's in the same boat, could have maybe seen themselves up in 5th. And then Lawson's outlap, he got jumped by Hamilton. Do you remember seeing we jumped on board with Lewis and saw him come past at warp speed down the Kemmel Straight? There's about 30 kph difference through their respective outlaps in Eau Rouge. So a bit of caution exercised there by Liam, but it's understandable. He still hasn't done a full year of Formula One, so when you're in the points, you want to just make sure you don't biff it off into the wall at the fastest corner on the calendar, and certainly the scariest.
It's worth saying that Alan, whenever we talk to him about the two drivers he's got in the car at the moment, really rates them, doesn't he? And that's not something, he's not the kind of guy who goes, my drivers are fantastic.
He certainly isn't.
For no reason. For no reason. No specific drivers mentioned. But he really, I mean, I've doorstepped him about Liam Lawson, who he, of course, has seen go from the second team to the first team and then back again, all within his sort of tenure, not as team principal, but as racing director. And he really, really is behind both of the drivers that he has at the moment.
I think he's good for a young driver as well. I always got on well with him when I was at Renault. So he was my sporting director, essentially the chief in the engineering department. And just the no-nonsense approach. He is very, you're a team, and he knows how to get the most out of young drivers. He knows that what they might need. He's been around for such a long time. And I remember when I was having my first few races, and I had a great drive in Melbourne, rocked up to Bahrain, and he said, that was great, by the way, in Melbourne. That was really, really very good. But don't let off, because Kevin Magnussen on the other side of the garage is going to be really trying to drill you here. So you need to make sure that you keep it focused, because this is Formula One, and this is not an easy play. And I got drilled in Bahrain, to be fair. But he really understands working with youngsters, and I think you can see that with these guys.
I sense with Laurent Mekies as well coming into that main role at Red Bull. The garage feels like a supportive place. I mean, all you apparently need to do is smile at Yuki Tsunoda, and he jumps straight up into Q3. But he did seem so much happier and more relaxed in Spa.
Aaron is static on my driver tracker. He's static in your screen now. 32 minutes ago, yellow flag is out.
I've got systems critical alarm. What do you want me to do?
And stop the car, Paul. Stop the car.
Yeah, good from the man in FP1 only for Sauber today to get straight on the radio, ask what to do. Systems critical alarm. He's told to park it up. We're going to test out the virtual safety car with this, which is no bad thing at all. Everyone reduces their speed. With half the session left to go, he will be pushed behind the barriers. You've got the F2 and F3 paddock on the other side there. And there is Jonathan Wheatley, one of the many team principals who've changed teams to take the main job.
Well, frustratingly for him, he's about 250 metres from the pit lane. But in this circuit of mass elevation, it is a slightly uphill run out of this left-hander. And so he wouldn't have been able to coast round, I don't think, anyway. But he's tantalisingly close to getting the car back, and then the team can have a look at it and see. But instead, they are telling him he's off to the F2 paddock and switching there behind the barriers. Let's see on board if we can get any more information. So power's gone. I can't see anything on the dash just yet. Maybe it's lower down. Yeah, it must be a message lower down that his helmet's partly obstructing there. One would assume that's a power unit safety issue there that's coming up, and stop the car is the right thing to do, especially, he is an FP1 driver. These things happen. You don't want to blow up the car so that Nico Hülkenberg can't get in it later on in practice. The most important thing is they save the components. Frustrating for Paul Aaron. Would be nice to see him have a good crack at it here, but the main thing is for Sauber that the car stays in as close to one piece as possible. And actually a good job of him to park it up where he did.
Yeah, he did well there, thinking of the team as a whole, especially when he's on loan from Alpine. Look over the F2 and F3 paddock there, and the brand new paddock for Formula One, rebuilt with this circuit redesign, the new pits building, the new main grandstand, commentary boxes in red there on the top row.
Well, Alpine could have done with him blowing the car up, couldn't they? Hulkenberg not running this afternoon, and then trying to close up the points to Sauber, who have had a great run. 23 points more now than Alpine, who are still bottom of the pile.
He's just conscientious. All the young drivers are.
You don't want to get a bad rep. You can't be coming in as Dick Dastardly in your first weekends when you're trying to impress anyone. And it could be Alpine, it could be Sauber. You never know where your future might lay. You don't want to come in with a bad reputation, and that would be skullduggery at its absolute most.
So many different drivers being supported in the grandstand. The main grandstand there on the straight, you're looking at a comparison between Norris and Charles Leclerc, who is the driver kind of in the picture. He's got three screens in front of him. Car number 16, they'll remove that, and looks like they're going to send him to the racetrack imminently. The different hats there tell the story of the spread of support in Formula One. But having been all around the world so far this year, there's a lot of papaya, there's a lot of red, and that is currently the main makeup everywhere we go. McLaren sold a lot of hats at Silverstone, didn't they? It's ridiculous how many papaya hats we had at the grandstand there.
Well, it's easy to get confused between the papaya and the orange as well, because there are a lot of orange. This used to be a mainstay for the Verstappen fans. As well as Spa, you'd get Austria, you'd then get Budapest, and then, of course, Zandvoort coming up. And then, I mean, you must get a buzz if you're a Verstappen or a Norris or Piastri, just thinking it's a sea of papaya or orange. If you can't discern between the two, you just think everyone's there for you, apart from the smattering of Ferrari fans amidst the load for McLaren and for Max.
Franco Colapinto is in your picture now, going through turn 4, which is an awesome corner. And he's on the soft tyre, so we're going to get his best lap of the weekend so far if he keeps it clean.
That's a great crowd for a Budapest Friday, isn't it? Great view for them as well, seeing the cars come through in the natural amphitheatre, that middle sector. Colapinto winding his way through this middle sector. Nice flow, building the speed, flat out through 10, feather it through 11, looks fully committed on his first lap on the softs, and is finding a bit more grip before finding the lower speed at the final sector then. Turn 12. Come past where Aaron had to stop the car then. This is turn 13. Low speed, 180-degree corner, but he's still firing in. Good entry speed on the soft tyres. And then this is the final corner. Medium speed, it looks fairly quick now as well, and he's able to get on the gas. Traction working well, and Colapinto's up into the top 6.
Yeah, nice lap from Franco Colapinto. Understanding the Alpine with every lap that he turns behind the wheel. You're looking at his 3 sector times, 28.5, 27.5, and a 21.8 for your reference. We're going to get some attacking laps in a few moments' time. We're going to have Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen's building up as well on the racetrack. They're all going to be compared to Lando Norris's benchmark time, which is a 1:16.837. And as the cars begin their attacking laps, Charles Leclerc is out of the 14th and final corner around this much shorter racetrack than the one we had a few moments ago. In the main picture that you have, you've got Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri heading there. I want to send it to turn number 4. James Hinchcliffe has been waiting to take us through the trackside pictures here. We're going to send you a couple of Ferraris, Hinch.
Sounds like the perfect thing to see right here, guys, in turn 4. This is one of the coolest corners on this racetrack. You come out of turn 3, you dip down, and from where we're seeing, the car disappears as you head up, aiming for the sky. The blind entry here into turn 4, one of the fastest, one of the highest load corners here. This is where the downforce is working. This is where the good cars separate themselves from the okay cars. And what you notice standing here is just how sharp the front end is. That change of direction. The cars that have strong front grip here, generally pretty quick around the lap. This is a track that can be really hard on the front tires. You think of those long duration corners like turn 2, like turn 5, like 13 and 14. You're holding it for a long time. You need the front end to be strong. So when you see the quick change of direction as the cars crest turn 4 here, it gives you a sense at which cars are looking good. No surprise, the McLaren has such a sharp turn and so much front grip in that car right now. But some of the other ones that are surprising me, or at least impressing me, the Racing Bulls. They came out of the gate, especially Hadjar, immediately looked up to speed, very comfortable through here. Same with Oliver Behrman as well, so maybe setting the scene for a pretty good midfield fight. Some of the cars struggling a little bit. The Ferrari, I know the pace isn't too bad right now, but you can visually see it's slower on that turn-in, not quite as sharp. I don't think it's quite as fast through this section, but you guys know, Jolien, Brundle, if you can roll off and out of the garage in FP1 with a car that gives you confidence right from the get-go to push early, like we're seeing out of Behrman, like we're seeing out of Hadjar, it can really set the tone for the weekend for you. Not to say you can't recover from a bad Friday, but it is definitely preferable to come out of the box strong, and a few of these cars right now looking very good.
Absolutely. I think this is one of those rhythm circuits as well. You've got so many corners. You've got 14 in a pretty short distance of circuit, and they just come at you so quickly. There's so many combinations, especially there where Hinch is standing at the start of the middle sector. You're flashing through all the way from turn 4 to turn 11, and as soon as you look up, you're straight into the next corner. So it's one where you've got to find the rhythm, and if you start confidently, you're looking for small gains rather than big chunks. It makes your job much easier. Should we have a look at Lando Norris flying lap here? Charles Leclerc did go to the top of the times, found a little bit. Hamilton improving as well. Verstappen only 5th. Alpine with a great job in the Williams. But let's see what Norris, who was the fastest man on the mediums, can do.
Yellow flag out there for a split second as we go past the corner where Gabriel Bortoleto was slightly wide earlier on. This is turn 4. And he's on the fastest first sector of anyone so far.
By a smidge, less than 300ths in it between Norris and Leclerc. But Leclerc's first sector was arguably his most competitive sector, actually. He's already not as quick as Norris's medium tyres through the middle and the final sector. So let's see the poise of the McLaren. Change of direction here, left and right. Whoa, not so poised on the exit of that one. Turn 9, finding a bit of oversteer, running a little bit too wide, but it hasn't cost him anything.
Norris half a second up by the time that he gets to the end of the second sector. And he's got a couple of corners to go. And he is unrelenting. In the old days, when this track used to be slightly slower in terms of the stopwatch, and they had a chicane at turn 12, used to really divide the drivers whether they enjoyed it or whether they didn't. They all seem to enjoy the flow of this place now, and Norris will enjoy that lap time. He's 0.7 of a second up against the Ferrari.
Yeah, he got in very early to the apex at the final corner as well, and gave it a whopping hug rather than a late apex to try and straight line off that exit. But he obviously managed to carry good minimum speed through there, so he cleaned up the sectors. First, second and third advantage Norris. Oscar Piastri was starting a flying lap but has aborted it, so we will wait another few corners for him to go again, and we'll get a comparison across the two McLaren cars. This has always been a Lando track. It's always been a good one. This is where he lacked that 1% of poise, and he just kept the car on track limits as well. Those right-hand tyres staying millimetres on the white line. Of course, it's only free practice.
So a little bit of feedback from that round of runs. Max Verstappen has quite a lot of understeer and struggling to rotate the Red Bull as we see Carlos Sainz go straight on at
the
turn 1.
problem is the flat spot didn't recover. Like I went off the pedal and it kept braking. I don't know why.
So that's the issue with Red Bull and Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc didn't have the tyres ready for the first part of that flying lap, so they're still working on the tyre preparation. It'll be a double cool next time around for Ferrari to try and get the tyre in a better window.
It was his most competitive sector, the first sector, interestingly. There was not much between him and Norris in the first part, and then the gap ballooned to 0.7 through sectors 2 and 3. Sainz, he got pretty close to actually finding the barrier there at turn 1, just trying to release the brakes so as to not to destroy the tyre. It's a difficult braking zone. There's a little bump on braking as well there, and Carlos, once he had the front lock, tried to release, but didn't want to stick back to the road. Again, hugs that final corner apex and drives to the line in the second Williams, and he's not far away from Albon.
Yeah, Alex Albon up there in 4th, Carlos Sainz in 8th position. Piastri has reloaded this attempt. He's fastest of everyone so far in the first sector. 1 year on from the strangest of maiden wins in Formula 1 when it is in his teammates' hands. 1 year ago, we had the phenomenal insight of David Coulthard, who was in exactly the same position in the late 90s as Lando Norris found himself. Do you elevate your teammate to the top step of the podium and comply with the team order? DC telling us 1 year ago he would change his mind if he had the chance to do it again. Wonder if Lando Norris, given the course of the season so far, feels the same way. Either way, it's Norris ahead of Oscar Piastri by about 1.5 after that run.
State of play as McLaren look hooked up. Probably not surprisingly, but that is a big margin to the rest of the field. So Charles Leclerc's done a double cool-down, as Alex Brundle said that he would, and here he goes with a little tweak on the steering wheel, and he does the fastest first sector of anyone. So now we're finding a little bit more grip with Charles. And we come through the middle sector. Let's see if we stay on board, because this is a roller coaster ride through this part. Through turn 5. Is he going to hop over the chicane? Nicely through the first part. Gives the second part a bit of a wider berth to get the traction towards 8 and 9. Where Lando found himself quite wide on the exit. Charles got loads of margin. Flat through 10. Oh, I was hoping we'd stay on board for 11. You could hear the little feather out on the entry.
Maintain that gap. Alex Albon, by the way, is just on the fastest first sector of anyone so far in this session as he climbed the hill up to turn 4. I think he got some traffic, though, with the Mercedes of Antonelli. Had to back out of it. Shame, though. Great first sector. Final corner of the lap for Charles Leclerc. Let's see what the gap is to Lando Norris. It came out by another 10th in that last part of the lap.
Interesting and tiny bit funny what happened to Carlos Sainz, actually. We saw that big moment down towards turn 1. He was intending to go for a lap the lap before, and then forgot to turn push mode on as he came through the final corner and went, oh, I'm on the front straight. I'll have to go round again. As a result, had front tyres cold, and then therefore was off the plan, which is what resulted in that big lock-up down at turn 1. So effectively, didn't press the button was the problem across the line the first time around.
Lewis Hamilton's improved up to 4th position. He's 0.6 of a second away, but that's a better lap on his second effort. This is Alex Albon. Okay, so it wasn't traffic that he got at turn 5. It's going to be a moment for him. Catches it and bails out.
Big moment. Big slide. So he took a lot more curb through the second part of that chicane than we saw Charles do. Managed to actually have decent traction on the exit of it, but probably giving those rear tyres a bit of a harder time by the time he got to the next corner, just 100 metres up the road. Probably not even that.
Bortoleto over the curb and then darting back on beyond the limits at turn 4 and risking that ever-important flaw.
Yeah, the chassis doing that in 2017.
Yeah, it was an update, wasn't it? Updated car that weekend?
Yeah, totaled it by doing what Bortoleto's just done. Innocuous over the curb. You got a lot of load going on the car there. That's where Hinch was watching, and it's a fun corner to drive. It's a difficult corner because it's a really short apex. You've got to come over the crest, attack it, and any small correction and you are off over that raised curve, and you've got load on the car, so it's sitting so low it is easy to have a big floor strike, as Bortoleto found out to a lesser extent.
Max Verstappen's gone over the line. He's 0.8 of a second away from the benchmark pace of Lando Norris. George Russell with a couple of corrections, soaring away at the steering wheel early on. The track temperature is at 37 degrees. The air temperature is at 25. Turn 4.
There we go. That's how it should be done. In fact, there was a little bit more to come on it on the exit there for Russell, but good commitment, no correction, nice confidence, and it's paying back on the soft tyres here for George. Rear looks twitchy still through that low-speed chicane. We saw him have a moment there earlier on, and he's having to just wait before he can get on the gas. It's nicer as the speed builds up. 3G becomes 4.5G through the apex of turn 11. Few cars ahead. He'll be hoping that they clear out of the way for these final couple of corners. Still fighting the rear of the car. There we go. Cars jump out of the way. One more to go. Don't want to pick up dirty air here with lots of load on the car, even at the medium speed, but they're long corners. Get on the throttle, washing wide, but it's going to hook up.
It goes ahead of Max Verstappen, but he's 0.8 of a second off. Driver with one podium finish here in Grand Prix in his Formula 1 career. It began in 2019.
The rear just doesn't look great on the Mercedes. You can just see lots of small moments. If he's not correcting it, he's not able to turn in because the rear's just sort of dancing around a little bit. When you look at the McLaren and you look at the Ferrari, the rear is so much more planted than the Mercedes early on.
Lock up and a half for Lando Norris at the first turn. Not the only one. Felipe Drugovich, currently in 15th position, finds himself with a big moment, and that's a feature that we haven't seen in recent times. Huge lockups at the first turn.
Yeah, you can see him just trying to release the brake and keep it going a couple of times, but then also panicking and thinking, I'm about to smack the wall here. Hamilton joins them. It's a difficult braking zone. There is a bit of a bump in there, so when you're applying your 120, 130 bar of brake, you've got to make sure your wheels are straight and you're over that bump, and if you're not, that is exactly what happens. You destroy tyres. Norris is back in the pits, Drugovich is back in the pits, and I'd have thought Hamilton would be in to join them.
It's also resurfaced this year, isn't it? Down towards turn 1 that came with a new pit and paddock complex. So the front straight is now different tarmac to what it was previously. Add that to a bit of a tailwind down there, and in general, drivers are struggling.
Yeah, Piastri has the fastest middle sector of anyone so far. Oliver Behrman is the driver currently in 6th position on a 1:16.8. And this is the Australian round the final corner. And he misses out by less than 200ths of a second.
Okay, I'm looking forward to this. Nothing to separate the two McLarens, and we're in FP1. 200ths. And this is one where, statistically, this is one of Norris's best circuits on the calendar. He's always been extremely competitive, had pole by a good margin last year, lost the lead of the race at the start, which gave Piastri his first win. So he'll get confidence from that as well, coming back to a scene of a victory. It's always gives you confidence when you know that you've had your great memories, and he's been able to hold off Lando for the Grand Prix distance last time out, albeit with a bit of jiggery-pokery on the team orders. But it also comes, I think, at an important time. 16 points the gap. Either they'll head to summer break with the gap less than 10 points, or they can head out to a full Grand Prix win, and that's quite a big psychological difference.
It is indeed. Let's go trackside again with James Hinchcliffe.
So we've decided to kind of go to the complete opposite type of corner from turn 4. We're down here in that 6-7 chicane. Big stomp on the brakes, really slow the car down, and then it's all about the curb usage here. And essentially what you're looking for when you're watching for a car riding the curbs is two things. The first is that initial impact with the curb. How does it absorb that bump? And then second's the recovery. When the tire comes back down, does it land once and settle, or does it oscillate and keep bumping, giving you inconsistent grip as you're trying to exit that corner? Most drivers here, they're taking a lot of that first curb, as much as you dare, trying to maybe tiptoe around the second curb a little bit as you're trying to put that power down and accelerate out of the corner. Cars that look good, no surprise. The McLarens look pretty strong. Maybe a bit of a surprise, the Red Bull doesn't look too bad through here. The car looks pretty settled. Watching those front tires recover from the bump looks pretty good. But conversely, as much as I was praising the RBs and the Haas in turn 4, both of those cars look like they're struggling a little bit, especially on that recovery phase. It's really forcing the drivers to use a lot of this exit curb, which again is more oscillation, hard to get the power down. So a pretty unique corner on this racetrack compared to the rest of it. Jolien, you were talking about the flow of this place, how it's got a nice rhythm to it. To me, this looks like one of those corners that almost ruins the flow, ruins that rhythm, because it is such a stop-start corner compared to the rest of the track. Is that how it feels from behind the wheel of an F1 car here?
I mean, it's just so important to find that rhythm, find the traction on the exit of those low speed, and then pick it into the next corner and keep the rear tyres in good nick. It's a critical corner that you're at there, Hinch, and finding the rhythm, it is just so important.
James, is there anyone out there that's caught your eye as a bit of a surprise, that you were like, okay, the timing page might say something, but through the chicane they're looking pretty good?
You know what? A little bit. The Aston Martins look pretty good over the chicane here, but obviously on the time charts right now, to be fair, I haven't checked in a minute. Maybe on the soft tires they were a bit better, but not a car that's been particularly quick so far in the session. They look pretty sorted through here. So again, it is one corner. It's one where you are using a lot more curb than in other places. It's a little bit more of an effect on the lap time through that section than other places. And right now, that car is actually looking better than I think they are relatively on the timing charts.
Well, good news, Hinch. Magello's got no corners like that at all. Keep working on the neck, my friend. James Hinchcliffe is going to be testing a Haas in the next, I'm not entirely sure when he is doing it, but he's looking forward to getting behind the wheel, and we're looking forward to seeing that on F1 TV.
But I mean, there are changes of direction. There are some chicanes at the start of Mugello, and there's
just quite quick.
Yeah, they're just about twice the speed. So I like that Hinch is down there getting the notes of the changes of direction and the rhythm for it, and then it will be on steroids when he's driving that car in Mugello next time.
Speaking of testing Haas have got an interesting summer break planned, that they're shipping at least one car, probably two, off to Fuji Speedway to let Toyota play with them and do some of the older cars and to let them have a run out and let Toyota have a play, which is quite an interesting move for them for the summer.
You don't get many test days at Fuji, do you?
Not at all.
Usually down for the cost reasons, but that's a great racetrack as well, isn't it? We had the Japanese Grand Prix in late early 2000s that we had a couple of races there. Lewis Hamilton, spectacular win in the wet, 2007, and then defining day. They all locked up and went deep on the first lap in 2008. It's a great Grand Prix around there. And if you've never seen it, it'll be in the archive in about 10 minutes' time. Look up Robert Kubica, Felipe Massa. Unbelievable battle at the end of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, but that battle makes Jolyon Palmer sound correct all the time when I complain about track limits, and he says, no, you've got to ignore it, because the track limits in that battle are something special.
Yeah, well, you just treat the track limits as optional and you get a classic battle.
The reason the costs are in some way mitigated for that particular test is Toyota, in fact, own Fuji Speedway.
Yes,
so
they do.
Does somewhat take the edge off the logistics when that's the case.
That is indeed true, in the same way that Honda owns Suzuka, which is the host of the current Japanese Grand Prix.
Yeah, we did have a good couple of races there, didn't we? Dramatic couple. I'm not against track limits. I just hope that we don't need them. That's my. If the rules are the rules, right? And I don't want to see people flying off the road and treating the track as optional. I just hope that we've had so much evolution and advancement from the FIA, even the blue painted strip now behind the white line, so it's much clearer for them to get track limits right. But then even widening the track a little bit in Austria, bringing the gravel back in, we are hopefully a far cry from the days where you'd be getting the microscope out to see if there was someone a millimetre over the limit. This would be a corner in the past. It's not really now because of the raised curb and it's been reduced. I just don't want to get into it.
So I was very excited, actually, by the single change beyond the resurfacing of the start-finish straight, which I saw to the race circuit here, which is the magical strip of gravel has been added on the outside of turn 5 to prevent drivers going around. I wondered why we couldn't do that on the outside of turn 11 here as well, which is a track limit challenge. On the positive, Hungaroring.
I was going to say, was that a minor complaint?
Hungaroring, a circuit with absolutely no extraneous corner numbers.
Yeah.
The first for a long time. So I'm delighted by that.
That has been a minor complaint of Alex Brundle, as the loyal viewers to practice will know. Great to have your company. Max Verstappen's logging another lap across the line with 8 minutes to go. That's the view from the brand new grandstand, which got rid of the incredible phenomenon of having all the food outlets built into the grandstand and wafting up. The smell of kebab at 8 in the morning doing a Formula 3 practice session. Much missed. Still getting used to that, aren't we?
Part of the charm, though, isn't it?
I loved it. This is
grandstand foods wafting to the booth.
This is such a great racetrack and a great facility that in the past really slow, and you get that with a couple of tracks in Formula 1 history. They were added and everyone complained about them, and now we come here with a smile on our face and we enjoy the weekend. Grandstands are packed on a Friday, another festival of Formula 1 for us, the 14th of the year.
That just whets the appetite for lunch a little bit more, doesn't it?
I wondered where you were going with that. We found out at the end. I was looking forward to some lunch. So we can see the heli rather low there, and let's get the vantage point then. Beyond the trackside camera, you can see the dip down the hill that Palmer so enjoyed me mentioning earlier on. And we've seen I love a move around the outside here. I was looking at the extended highlights of the 2014 Hungarian Grand Prix, which featured so many moves around the outside of 2 on the way into 3.
So, let me tell you, the outside of turn 2, I didn't know that was a move. And then in 2012, I was done there in GP2. Do you know who by?
Go on.
Davide Valsecchi.
Hey!
It was an absolute blinder, and I'd never seen it done before. I watched Formula 1 all the time since the 90s, and almost since the Hungarian Grand Prix started around here. And I'd never seen someone do it. I defended the inside. I thought, hey, good luck, mate, good luck. And he flew around the outside, and there was nothing I could do for turn 3. So then, fast forward to 2014, and I started pulling that one off on Felipe Nasr in the battle that you mentioned at the top of the hour. It was a really fun battle, and I was managing to do that. Looked at the Grand Prix, and Danny Rick was starting to charge round the outside of people at turn 2 as well. But it was Valsecchi that I first actually knew that was pioneering that move, at least to my knowledge, on a Grand Prix weekend. And it's a really good one, because if you can hammer it around the outside. The minimum corner speed is quite high. You could just get on the throttle, keep your car there, and you got the inside for turn 3. Job's a good one.
Esteban Ocon didn't need any overtaking manoeuvres in 2021 when he won here. He had to show us all of his defensive mettle up against Sebastian Vettel, the 4-time world champion, again and again and again, right there the entire race. You worked your entire life for that opportunity. He took it, and he can call himself a Grand Prix winner. A rare privilege in the history of this championship, and that was secured. Great scenes of celebration afterwards. Jonathan Wheatley, the new team principal at Sauber, has been lauding the job that Matteo Binotto has done and putting the foundations in for that team. It will be known as Audi for next year.
Well, Matteo Binotto flanked by his 2 drivers in the session, and there's 5 minutes to go. So we know what happened to Paul Aron, who was out the car with a big alarm going off, but Bortoletto is stopped after 17 laps as well.
And we just caught a glimpse of the technical director, James Key, just coming into shot with a rather concerned look on his face. So I think all's not well in the Swiss-German corner of the pit lane.
Are you going to give us another one here?
I was intrigued to see where that sentence was going, Sam. Yeah, you're quite right about that. James Key, formerly of McLaren, now helming what will become the Audi project. A good update, encouraging update for them. Brilliantly exploited by Nico Hülkenberg, who'll be back in the car later on. Exploited brilliantly for his podium finish. Memorable moment of the Formula 1 season back at Silverstone. But Lando Norris was the Grand Prix winner, and he's fastest at the moment, albeit dipping a couple of wheels into the gravel. Saw that a couple of times here last year. Same corner on board, George Russell and Mercedes. Oh man, that is scrubbing wide.
Yeah, it's another corner where Alex Brundle will be delighted that they added a bit of gravel on the exit of turn 12, because that would have been a track limits corner. That came in. It's already had a couple of years, that addition. But it does mean you get the gravel coming in onto the circuit when people run wide.
It's on the race director's notes as an addition for this year.
The turn 12 gravel?
Oh, no, not the turn 12. I thought you meant the turn 5 gravel.
Turn 12 has been there.
Brundle's on radio listen.
I'm trying to find out for you what's happened to Bortoletto. So it all seems fine so far. I think he's just routinely stopped.
Brundle had the same expression as someone who'd been rudely awoken from a nap there as we interrupted his radio scanning. We appreciate Alex, 2-time podium finisher at Le Mans.
Recoiling in the commentary box as he comes at me with that.
This is why some racing drivers, when they go rallying, need co-drivers more than others, Alex.
Okay, 3 minutes to go, and the story of the session, it's McLaren and everyone else, as it has been for a while now. The Max Verstappen cameos in qualifying, just generational laps to steal pole and make it a contest. Feels a while ago, McLaren have seized control of every race weekend, whether it be a Spa or a Hungaroring.
Well, it was 2 races ago that he took pole with one of those great laps, wasn't it? Feels a long time ago in this session when he's been sort of a second down.
I know, but competitive picture, that's just completely faded away in recent times.
The championship's surely gone, hasn't it now?
81 points back coming into this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, what was that? It was about 81 points or 80 points that Lando was trying to haul back last year, wasn't it?
It was definitely 81 at one point, because I was like, coincidental. It's just, he could never get... You always knew last year, Verstappen kept them on the end of the jab. If he'd get one Grand Prix win, that would be it, and he did.
Man, I can't have a car.
It has looked that way on board with George Russell, and he has struggled in this session.
Yeah, it's what you said when we were on board with him at turn 12, just struggling to rotate the car. With fuel on board now, the Mercedes trying to run consistent laps. Hamilton going through the chicane as well. Yeah, the difference, of course, to last year is that Red Bull don't have the competitive car that McLaren had. So you always felt like Lando could come back into the championship mix, even if he ended up not getting there. It's difficult to see Max doing that. But we do still see the glimpses of what Max can do. The Silverstone qualifying lap was amazing just 2 races ago. And even in Belgium, the pace of the car wasn't there, but the sprint, the execution of that, I thought was a really top effort from Max. And I mean, how many times do we see Red Bull struggling on a Friday and coming good on a Saturday of a conventional race weekend as well?
Yeah, I guess Silverstone was the first one where it was a big old gamble, wasn't it, in the amount of downforce that he was running in order to get that. That's right, start him young, bring the ear defenders, and show him Formula 1 at its finest. Oscar Piastri fan there in the grandstands.
Just got to look the other way, though.
Encouraging for Ollie Bearman again after performance across the weekend. Let's take it across the weekend in Spa and also at Silverstone, where he found himself before that really annoying red flag penalty for him, second of the season. He'd put it in the top 8 there at Silverstone. And Esteban Ocon underlining yesterday, Ollie's teammate, that they feel that they've got nowhere near the performance that they should have done from the updated car in the last couple of Grand Prix.
Yeah, they haven't. They've under-delivered in terms of points, and they'll be absolutely hoping to get something on the board here. They've got Zippo out of the last 2 weekends, and they've had a lot of pace in that car as well. So Ocon and Bearman in Belgium ran completely different setups. Ocon for the Grand Prix was on the low downforce, Bearman on the high downforce. Of course, they did score well in the sprint, but they were looking to get some more out of it in the Grand Prix. But Bearman was so quick through 2/3 of the lap, made a mistake at the start of the lap, and I thought that high downforce, a bit like for Verstappen, you think that's going to pay off on race day, but the way that the race was run, the delay, effectively starting it close to a dry crossover, just completely took the wind out of Bearman's sails, out of Verstappen's sails, and a few other drivers that were really well positioned after a good qualifying on high downforce.
Yeah, Bearman very much in the camp of drivers that wanted things started 20 minutes earlier than we got underway, and we're showing you every different supporter in the crowd that we can today by the looks of things, including someone here backing Lance Stroll, who finds himself in 10th position. A word for Felipe Drugovich. Last minute call up to the car, and he's in 16th position. Stroll 9/10 of a second off the back of Lando Norris, and 1.2 the gap with Drugovich off the back of the pace setter at the end of this first practice session of 3, the Hungarian Grand Prix. And there's a comparison between Max Verstappen and Lance Stroll, which rather tells the story of where the Red Bull camp have started things in comparison to Aston Martin.
What a crowd.
I love the different support we get all the way around the world, summed up by the Silverstone crowd cheering Oscar Piastri taking the lead, and he's the closest rival to Lando Norris in the championship. Just everywhere we go, great respect for 20 of the best drivers in the world.
It's just a great race for atmosphere, isn't it? Budapest, no Hungarian driver in the field, not a huge amount of Hungarian history of Formula One, yet it's a great racetrack, and more is providing us entertaining Grand Prix on Sundays, and it's a good place to just come and watch cars with the way the natural topography of the land, and you get a chance to watch on the banks. You can see a few corners. It's lower speed, so you get to watch more of the cars. It's a lot of fun, and it's great to see it absolutely heaving on a Friday.
Yeah, completely agree. The conditions getting slightly warm by the end there. Track temperature went up to 26 degrees, up from the 25 where we started. Track temperature is at 38. If you're interested in visiting a Grand Prix, this one's slightly out of town, but not as far as others. So you're about a 20-minute drive from downtown without the traffic. But it is one where you can get here a variety of different ways. So this is one to put on your list if you're able to travel. And Budapest is just a magnificent city. And Formula One keeps coming back year after year. We're celebrating 40 years of the World Championship running of a Formula One Grand Prix in these parts. Let's check in with Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, it's so much grid limited. I can't push farther than that.
Is it a specific corner phase or throughout corner?
Well, it's just through that corner. It's just really sliding around 4 wheels.
Copy.
Just not getting the tyre working. It sounds like them for Tsunoda, whether they need to change something on the mechanical setup of the car to get more out of the tyres there. Quite possibly the hard tyre that's been on Yuki's car for the higher fuel there. He's just struggling on fronts and rears.
The difference between 9th and 17th, 0.4 of a second, which is what you'd sort of expect a driver to be able to find, or a team to be able to find in terms of setup. But when your teammate's Max Verstappen, 0.4 of a second isn't massive, actually.
No, it's about the average that we've seen in the past between Max Verstappen and teammates before it ballooned out in recent times. This is the racetrack where Alex Albon and Max Verstappen were teammates. Let's hear from Felipe Drugovich first of all.
Thanks, guys, for another one. Thank you. And sorry for the blind spot.
That was a mega job, as always. What up?
lovely message to Felipe Drugovich after he has an extra hour of run.
We will see if Fernando is going to get back in the car as well.
Key question.
Yeah, a tweak to his back that's put Felipe Drugovich in the car for this one. Loads of Flovers on the front of it as well, as Aston Martin try and find out where the performance went last time and how to get it back for this time.
Okay, great view past the water park. Palmer was doing some analysis on that.